Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Rabbi Eric Walker. All his life, Derek Evans felt a spiritual pull to be a part of something greater than himself, but it wasn't until he and a friend embarked on a missions trip to LA's infamous Skid Row that he found his true calling. They returned home with a plan to build a mission-minded business that would change the world one t-shirt at a time. When there's spread love, it's the Nashville Way grassroots campaign to raise money for people recovering from homelessness and addiction caught the attention of celebrities like Lady Gaga and Miley Cyrus. It went viral and ignited a global movement to end homelessness, child hunger, and human trafficking. In 2010, Derek launched Project 615 to do work that matters and utilize that platform to help change the world. Since then, Derek has helped hire individuals recovering from homelessness, build an orphanage in Uganda, and raised over $500,000 for various world-changing nonprofit organizations. 100% of the author's profits for his new book will be donated to Room in the End, a 501c3 nonprofit. From being one unemployment check away from being out on the streets to his eye-opening experience with Set Free Ministries on Skid Row to facing a PR crisis, Derek shares his unique journey as both an entrepreneur and Christian in this intimate tell-all. Derek is living proof that by trusting in God, you do not have to go down a traditional path to be successful, nor do you have to be great before you can do things with great love. Made to Change the World is both an inside look at one faith-driven man's passion to make a difference and a call to action for anyone who has ever dreamed of being a part of something that changes the world. Derek Evans is president and co-founder of Project 615. In 2010, he launched his apparel company to do work that matters and utilize that platform to help change the world. He's hired 54 people recovering from homelessness, built an orphanage in Uganda, raised over $500,000 for various world-changing nonprofits. He lives with his wife in Nashville, Tennessee, and of course 100% of the author's proceeds for this book will be donated to Room in the Inn. Here to talk about his new book, Made to Change the World, How Ordinary People Are Called to Do Extraordinary Work, the story of Project 615, is Derek Evans. Derek, welcome to Revealing the Truth.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you on. It's an honor to share this wonderful story and how your journey led you to a crossroads that when you finally were almost literally forced to make the decision to turn this way, that you made the choice and passionately walked down that road. Let's go back a little bit, though, to the early years of Derek Evans growing up in the Evans home and what that was like and what kind of examples, role models, influences you had growing up that would give you the faith and the desire to want to serve the world, the community at large, and to serve God in this capacity.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking that question. Yeah, so originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. We grew up in a Christian home, and so every Sunday, every Wednesday, and sometimes twice on Sunday, we would go to church, and my folks got us in there early as babies, and we were pretty much in the same church pretty much all of my childhood, and ended up going to a Christian university that was tied to my church as well, but so my folks were, I come from a great loving home, very blue collar home. So we were taught to work hard, never be lazy. And, if we want something that you have to work hard to get it. And so I was always taught at a young age to do that. And so my grandfather played a significant influence in my life, just as somebody that I probably was really my first role model in life. And he was a man that found himself to be homeless when he was in his teens. That led him on a wild adventure, and he eventually ended up serving in Korea in the military. And so I was always fascinated by his stories. I was always fascinated really by his perseverance in his own life. He ended up being a very loving father, a loving grandfather, just a great citizen in society. And he was somebody that really just kind of towed the line on normal Christianity. I always call him somewhat of a rebel, but he was somebody that really loved people well. And one thing that I remember about my grandfather is that he was best friends with an African American, and to do that in the 50s, 60s, and 70s is really, not necessarily good or bad. I mean, it was just something that wasn't normal. And so my grandfather always made it a point to make sure that he had a sturdy relationship with this gentleman. And it always taught me, early on that you always want to do what's right, and especially the way that God wants it to be done.
It's interesting you refer to that. Now, in the book you talk about your dad was a blue-collar worker. He was a factory worker. He was a third shifter. So as you were getting up, he was coming home, and that was strong memory you had of a work ethic, strong man who never failed to provide for his family, but not luxuries.
Sure.
It was a almost kind of a foundation for you of paycheck to paycheck.
Absolutely. Yeah, a little bit. And which is, I'm grateful for those times, and I don't necessarily, I used to think that, we were poor, but really we just didn't have, all the luxury items. That was really what we didn't have. And so we had everything we needed in life. And so if you comparing your own self to other people's lives, of course, you're going to always come up short. And so I kind of switched that language when earlier as an adult, and realized that we had everything we needed. And my parents really did their best to take care of us. And so, I'm grateful for those times, because, it always kind of tends to give you more strength and a little bit more work ethic.
When you saw your grandfather and it's really this man of God, this man who was wholly yielded unto the Lord, who really gave you not only a faith example, but seeing faith in a daily basis, seasoned in his talk. I come from Pittsburgh, so Pittsburgh's like Indianapolis in a lot of ways.
Sure.
It's Midwestern. Factory workers.
Yes.
We were Steel City. You saw a difference. You noticed a difference. You could tell a difference in the way people conducted themselves. You don't see that as much today. You don't. You can't really tell who's who in the world today based on the language and the conduct. But your church background got you involved with some good friends, and you went on a was it one mission trip, or did you do several mission trips?
Yeah, so I grew up, we didn't necessarily go on a lot of mission trips, and primarily because, traveling around the world or different cities is expensive. And, our church was kind of a blue collar church, and, they went every few years, but I was either too young or too old to go on those trips. So we didn't necessarily have those opportunities. And so, I graduated college, and a couple years later moved to Nashville. And going to LA to help feed and love on and spend time with those suffering from homelessness was one of my first true mission trips.
How did that come about?
So when I was in Indianapolis, I was working for a construction company, and it was the year 2008. And so, as many of it was a time of the recession, and a lot of construction companies were going out of business. And so that's what happened to us. And so I was one of the first to be let go. And so I was fired, and my boss, who was one of the owners of the company, gave me a severance check and said, "Thanks for everything, but we have to let you go." And so during that moment, I felt God tell me that he was calling me to Nashville, Tennessee. And so I had a few friends down here, really one, and one acquaintance and I spent some time with that one friend. I would visit them in Nashville over the years. And so it wasn't like I went blindly to Nashville, but it definitely was this calling that I really felt I really felt God was in it. And so 6 days later, I was in Nashville. I was a Nashville resident 6 days later. And so that time period was really kind of a big part of my story and my journey of trying to figure out what God was calling me to do. And so it was about 12 to 18 months of trying to figure things out, losing another job, not being able to get another job, finding myself truly on my knees for the first time seeking God. And so growing up in a Christian home, attending church, going to a Christian university, but this time in my life being the first time to truly seek God and get on my hands and feet and say, God, what do you have for me? Because this is not fun. Here I am, a college-educated person. All my friends are moving up the corporate ladder. Everybody seems to have their life figured out, and here I am just longing to do something not only that matters, but really have a passion to do something. And so, yeah, that's kind of where my story began. It was this transition from moving from Indianapolis to Nashville, and God using that time to mold me and really just kind of transform my heart. And so, I was actually, the severance didn't last long. And so I was able to collect unemployment. So I lived off that while seeking other opportunities to work. And, it really came down to, there was one season where, the unemployment wasn't enough. And, I had to reach for assistance and call the local city and see if they could provide some sort of food stamps or some other benefits. And they said that I actually made too much money on the unemployment. So, a few weeks later, my church was serving with this ministry downtown Nashville that fed the homeless. And I didn't really have anything to do at the time. I mean, besides looking for jobs, and praying, I had some time on my hands. And so I went down to serve with this ministry called the Bridge Ministry in Nashville, and to feed and pray and worship with the local homeless community. And so fast forward through that evening of worship, it's really this really amazing night. It's every Tuesday night here in Nashville, and they still do it. About 200 people who are living on the streets come to under the Jefferson Street Bridge in downtown Nashville, and there's a big worship service, and you take food to them and you worship with them and just really hang out with them. So at the end of the night, it's the first time I've ever experienced homeless ministry, and I have an opportunity to pray with a gentleman, and I'm praying with this man, and while I'm doing that, I'm thinking there's no difference between me and this man here. Maybe a couple unemployment checks, but for me, that night really sparked compassion for the least of these in my heart. And, of course, that's how God works, right? I mean, he puts us through trials and tribulations, so we're able to relate to things that we're then use those to then further his kingdom. And so, yeah, that's kind of the season of life that I was in, that journey. And then really that being in that season really sparked compassion for the least of these.
Were you surprised that Music City, that this place where people go to become stars, they go to make their name famous in country music, it's a place that people aspire to move to Nashville, that here you are surrounded by fame and fortune, but yet there's an inner city homeless problem. Was that surprising to you when you came face to face with it, and you began to hear the stories that were being shared with you of real life, not people who were not everyone was a drug addict. Not everyone had a mental
Yeah.
health issue. Not every one of them had PTSD. That many of them had a story just like your own.
You're talking about those that are in the homeless population?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It is a little surreal. And at the same time, I think a lot of homeless people migrate to the city of Nashville because Nashville is such a loving, giving city. And it's obviously part of the Bible Belt. There's a lot of churches here, there's a lot of nonprofits here. So part of me, if I were to be in their shoes, I would probably want to come to Nashville because there's a lot of opportunities for help and resources to be able to go to. So I don't think it necessarily surprised me as much because it actually kind of makes sense to me. It's kind of a gateway. I've heard that Nashville is 500 miles away from half of the United States, and so there's a lot of people that come through Nashville. And so yeah, seeing that and hear that, of course, a lot of these people, and I say a lot, I mean, there's certainly a small percentage of people that maybe were once had a career in music and now, drugs and alcohol and mental illness turn them to being a person of living on the streets and suffering from homelessness.
In your growing up and you're going to a Christian college, there was apparently something deep inside of you to follow in some kind of calling, but not necessarily in direct vocational ministry or pastoral ministry. But yet you had a desire to do something that made a difference. You wanted to make things different. Whether it was for legacy or for the Lord, you just had a desire to want to make things change the world somehow. This encounter you had at Skid Row, then you had this encounter in Nashville. How did it become clear to you? How does somebody have that clarion call and recognize it as being a clarion call?
Yeah, great question. Well, as we kind of move away from the story of my personal journey of finally seeing God spark this compassion in my heart, then having the opportunity to go on this intentional mission trip to spend about 7 or 8 days with people in this population, this demographic. So when we were there, when we flew to LA, and we literally were with people, day in and day out, those who are now pastors and business owners that were formerly on the streets, to people that maybe on day one of their journey of homelessness. And so we saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. And for those who've never experienced Skid Row, it's a large homeless population in downtown Los Angeles. It's beyond wild to see firsthand, and the smell, the look, the things that happen is just you can't believe what you're seeing. But one of the things for us that really connected with us is, you talk about going back to our own childhood and with that, but really seeing people saved and rescued from this. So talking with people, a pastor, and I talk about this guy in my book, and his name was Brother Mark, and he was kind of our guide and kind of our bodyguard, and just loved Jesus, man. It was just so, we just admired him so much, how he just expressed his love for Jesus. And while we're walking the streets of Skid Row, he's like, you see that dumpster over there? I lived in and out of that dumpster for 12 years. And to be like, wait, you lived in a dumpster for 12 years and ran the streets and did all these crazy things? He's like, yeah. And we'd pass him and they would say, man, it's good to see you doing well. I can't believe you've, where you are now in life. And it was people, we heard all those stories all week long. Again, you saw both sides. You saw people that were still living in the mess, and you saw people that are now pastors and business owners, and and so seeing people being rescued from this was such a beautiful thing. And that's obviously what Jesus does to us, and what I don't think most Christians are able to see. um, and to me, I use the term where you're able to see just the mercy and grace of Jesus in a three-dimensional view. And I turned to my friend Matt, who would go on to be my business partner. I was just like, whatever we can do to live, to be a part of this forever, I want to do that. And so, for us, it was as simple as like, all you have to do is give people second chances in life. And because that's what Jesus has done for us. And so how can we do that in a unique way? And we had this desire to start a business that sold graphic design t-shirts. And so how can we connect that passion that we feel that we're gifted in, and utilize that with this calling that God has placed upon us, to be able to give second chances to those who aren't necessarily worthy of those compared to society's viewpoint? And how can we combine those two things?
So that's really the birth of Project 615.
Correct.
So out of this experience at Skid Row, you having this conversation with your friend that you moved down to Nashville, that you reconnected with, and he kind of walked this path with you of really wandering. You were having your own wilderness experience, getting to the point where you were kind of getting desperate for help, calling a city and saying, "Is there anything more that I can get?" is as humbling as you can possibly experience. So you were right on the brink. You got a glimpse of what life could be like, even for yourself. So this was a you were there on a mission trip, but it was also quite a stunning wake-up call for you as well, wasn't it?
It was. And again, even as somebody that was a Christian and thinks you kind of know it all. I was a young adult, but you just kind of think you know it all, and you've seen and heard all that Jesus has been able to do in your life, and people at church and church camp and all those things. But to be able to see something like truly saving people from the bottom is really nothing short of a miracle. So so I think that was definitely life changing, and something that I was just like very compassionate over. And coming out of my own personal journey, and knowing that I was just a few steps away from potentially being there. So definitely mutually transformational, and that's what I think, that's the beautiful part about being able to immerse yourself on a mission trip. I think mission trips get kind of a bad reputation, where people are always thinking it's, you're doing something really, it's just kind of silly for a week. But God uses those times to get out of our comfort zone, to get out of work, to get out of our house, to go be somewhat uncomfortable for, X amount of days, so then he can speak to us. And so I know oftentimes we think mission trips are about serving other people, and really God uses that time to serve us.
Well, that's kind of his pattern, isn't it? As he takes us to the dry places where we wind up getting thirsty, and we need to turn to him for the drink. We're there to pour out, but we find out that we're the one that are the ones who are most in need of the drink, and that's a part of the foundation of the birth and the story behind Project 615, and the story of Derek Evans, made to change the world. How ordinary people are called to do extraordinary work. The story of Project 615. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back from the break, we're going to dig into this ministry, this mission, this vision, these T-shirts. We're going to talk about room in the inn and what's happening, and how this vision that was birthed really at Skid Row in Los Angeles, has now come to be able to impact so many lives. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Not everything that makes the headlines has biblical importance, but many events that happen around the world do, and you never hear about them. Igniting a Nation is pleased to teach Revealing Prophecy every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at the Marriott 280 in Birmingham. We will cover worldwide events and insider information that will connect the dots of what's happening around the world with biblical prophecy. If you happen to miss a class, we'll televise each week's class at 10 o'clock Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our social media outlets. Copies of the teachings will also be available to purchase on our website at www.ignitinganation.com. The Lord meets you right where you are, and so does Igniting a Nation's new live streaming outlets. You can now watch Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and Prophecy Revealed simulcast live each Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, Periscope, and the site www.ignitinganation.com. No matter what device you are using, our program will automatically scale so you won't have to miss a single program. And if you happen to miss an episode, you can always subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel and access over 1,000 interviews and never miss your favorite authors, special guests, and topics that interest you the most.
There are lots of ways to see Israel, but nothing compares to seeing the land of the book and the people of the book through the eyes of two Jewish believers who can take you on a journey that will bring the entire Bible to life. When you join Rabbi Eric Walker and his #1 rated tour guide, Edo Canaan, in Israel, you'll experience incredible teachings, first-class accommodations, and actually walk where Jesus walked. You will experience the Bible transforming from black and white into living color, and you will never see the Bible in the same way again. For more information, visit us at www.ignitinganation.com/events.
The Lord contends with what contends with you, and Igniting a Nation is committed to bringing to light each and every issue that faces a believer's life. Our live stream programming and teachings take you on a journey to finding biblical truth from a wide variety of experts who share their insights into a deeper walk with the Lord. We have assembled the most comprehensive panel of experts in the fields of prophecy, caregiving, healing from trauma, shame, and abuse, and so much more. We continue to expand our teachings and programming to meet your needs. We're committed to healing the nations with biblical truth. Visit www.ignitinganation.com to develop a deeper walk with the Lord and start your journey to a transformed life. The Bible commands us to study to show ourselves approved, but most study using Bible study tools and not actually studying the Bible chapter and verse. Igniting a Nation is pleased to present Revealing the Bible, recorded and taught each week before a live audience. We take you deeper into the actual Bible and verse in both Hebrew and English and connect the dots between the Old and New Testament. You can attend our 2 classes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, or watch the program every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our other simulcast outlets. For more information, visit www.ignitinganation.com/events. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Derek Evans, author of Made to Change the World, How Ordinary People Are Called to Do Extraordinary Work, the story of Project 615. Derek, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So Derek, here you have this new call, new vision, everything you seem to have been prepared to do, all of a sudden now is becoming a vision, but it's just a vision. You have an idea with your best friend, hey, let's open up a graphic t-shirt company and use the money we make and help the needy.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Okay?
Yeah.
But you have no money.
Yeah.
You have no manufacturing. You have no graphic design. You have no computers. You have no place. You have no T-shirts. You have no inventory. You just have an idea. At that time, what did you call the idea?
Other people called it crazy. We called it a calling. And I think that's the secret sauce, is obviously you feel God calling you to something. You have a little bit more energy, passion, drive to want to do something. And so, where if other people are starting a business, regardless of what it is, I think, you don't necessarily have that calling from God. Not saying God's not a part of that, but, we felt him truly calling us to something. And so that gives us a little bit more energy and effort to want to do something. So you work extra hours, you get up earlier, you stay up later to be able to figure it out. And so yeah, we got home from that mission trip and we went to work. And so we bounced around different names, we bounced around different ways and strategy, but we immediately started beginning to design our product. And that was just beginning designing T-shirts. And thankfully, Matt, my business partner, is professional graphic designer, so we were able to kind of go ahead and start doing that, and partnered with a church here in Nashville that housed the homeless, and they were part of the church plant where we were in Skid Row, and so that made it a little easier as well, knowing that they were just getting started, and we convinced them to partner with us. And we said, well, hey, we want to give you some money, and we want to hire people that are living here and give them employment. And so yeah, once we got back from that trip, we got to work. And so it took us a couple years to actually begin producing our own shirts in-house and printing those in-house and learning all that. So it was a lot of, do it yourself, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of just figuring it out and trial by fire, literally. And, so just going to work and doing it. And so that was the thing, when, I'm still unemployed, so I had all the time in the world. And so, thankfully that unemployment check was still rolling, and you're able to kind of do those things. And that's the benefit of having that, is it helps you kind of get by while you're trying to get to the next thing. And so yeah, a lot of trial and error and figuring things out and trying to teach yourself and just focusing on that calling from God.
So from a marketing perspective, from a consumer perspective, if you will, who was your market? The church members? Were you able to hang the shirts in the church gift shop and get people to buy it and get the pastor to share the vision and say what you were trying to do, and it became kind of a para ministry, if you will, of the church?
Good question. Yeah. Yes, it was, but that wasn't our long-term goal. The church definitely told our story. They definitely ran the video on us. We sold some shirts at the end of a couple of events, and the church that we went to was a young adult church, and so we were catering to more young adults, people in their 20s and 30s. That was our target audience. And so, but we realized that, not just Christians want to give back. There's all kinds of people that want to give back, and no matter what your religion. And so I think being able to focus on that and being like, hey, not only are we this unique and cool brand, but your purchase matters, and you can make a difference in the world if you purchase through us. So that was kind of our goal. We didn't want to. We really wanted to diversify our audience, diversify our customers. So we wanted to make products for all people.
So the name. Tell me behind the name, the vision behind the name, how that got birthed, and how you were able to attract some notoriety by sharing the message of what you were going to do? Was it people who were connecting with the graphic design? Were they connecting with the vision? Were they connecting with the message? What was the hook that started pulling people in, that gave you the kickstart that you needed to take it to the next level?
Yeah. Well, we always wanted to design products that we would want to wear. So that was kind of the thing that we thought we would be successful, and how we could be successful was launching products that everybody wanted. And then secondly, the mission, because you need to sell your products first to be able to have money, to be able to help people. And so creating those products first was our main philosophy, and the mission second. Even though the mission is why we started the business, being able to sell products that others wanted is what we really wanted to do. So yeah, I mean, we started with kind of focusing on the Nashville community, focusing on different products that people in Nashville would buy related to music and country music, and celebrating the city of Nashville, different landmarks. And so, yeah, we started there, and obviously that's still a big part of what we do today, is celebrating the city of Nashville.
So you launched project615.org, and that's where the story is told, and the product line. But you did get some play from two interesting names that jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
That might surprise. Two names we don't connect with, or at least one name we don't connect with the faith movement at all.
Sure.
And that would be the Miley Cyrus. How did all that come about?
Well, again, the city of Nashville is really a magical city, and obviously it being one of the main hubs of music in the world attracts all kinds of people. And as the city continues to grow, you continue to have more well-known names here. And so, yeah, I mean, we kind of have this reputation of being this company that preaches positive messaging. We don't necessarily, pressure people into the faith that we believe, but it's really, just, using that type of language to really connect with everyone. And so we have several shirts that have have positive messages, and that can attract people to want to be this billboard for love and hope and peace and loving your neighbor, etc. But we have one of our all-time popular tees is "Spread Love, It's the Nashville Way," and that's ended up turning into really this iconic phrase here in Nashville. And so I mean, you're always about one person away from a celebrity here in Nashville, and it's just happenstance that some of these celebrities pick them up, and we're certainly grateful for it, because that definitely brings a lot of attention to the brand, but it also just continues to spread our message of who we are and what we do. And "Spread Love, It's the Nashville Way" has become this iconic phrase, but also symbolizes who we really are. We're a company that wants to spread love. We believe in this city and what this city is all about, and so that's really how our company really is, in a short phrase.
You also have, I think part of your vision is a call for people to be the light. And of all that you're doing in this particular area, the Nashville Way is great, but the greater good is being served in this particular part of the project, and that is that the proceeds from Be the Light are being used to support the Room in the Inn, as well as the proceeds from the book. Tell me a little bit about Room in the Inn and how that relationship got developed.
Yeah, so Room in the Inn is a phenomenal nonprofit ministry here in Nashville that serves those recovering from homelessness. And so they do things a little differently. They have long-term housing They also have short-term overnight housing. Primarily, they're a shelter for those who are living on the streets to come and eat, to relax, to hang out, to take classes, to have opportunities to purchase resources, and really for other opportunities to get their mail and check their email and all kinds of different things. So it's a phenomenal nonprofit homeless outreach here in Nashville. And so, yeah, 100% of the profits from the book is going back to them, and they've been a partner for us a few different times. So yeah, we currently have a campaign that we're partnering with them on called Be the Light, and we're helping feed and love on and help the homeless in Nashville this summer. So all the proceeds from the Be the Light T-shirts are going back to Room in the Inn. And so, but yeah, it's just a wonderful nonprofit here in Nashville.
So as this story unfolds, Made to Change the World, from 2010 to here we are in 2019, going from a vision to actually making a difference. What impact, and I know you have a summation of some of the examples of the impact that you've been able to have, both monetarily and internationally as well as domestically. Help us understand where your areas of impact are and how impactful this movement actually is.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we've been able to give away $500,000 to local nonprofits that are serving both the local community and the global community. So yeah, we certainly have done that. But what I think most important is, and not only who we are going to continue to be as a company, but really what this book talks about too is, being able to use our gifts and talents to be able to change the world. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. And then also just, I think being a company that kind of thinks differently, we kind of go against the grain. We're not the normal company that's constantly thinking about profit. Although profit is important, but we want to think about bigger things and things that God wants us to think about, not our own selfish ways. And so if we can just be able to encourage people to begin thinking differently and being able to have more of a positive message, to love their neighbors rather than negative messages, that's something that we're striving for. So we always want to use our platform again to be able to help others, certainly giving away our profits, hiring those who need a second chance, but also being a company that inspires change.
So you're actually hiring and training people, getting them off the street, being an active part of really changing people's lives, not just by giving into, but by actually hiring and training and employing and rebuilding lives. So it's not just I'm giving you a meal, I'm actually giving you a life-changing opportunity. In the stories that you have of the people that you've encountered, that you've impacted their lives, I want you to think of one person that maybe early on when you guys first got started, one of the first people you were able to impact, maybe over the long term, still with you, or maybe gone on to do their own ministry or gotten involved somehow. But think of one that when you talk about your legacy, when you tell your children, if you have them, or your children to be, and you tell them, let me tell you the story about, what story best exemplifies for you why you do what you do?
It's a good question. I mean, there's certainly so many stories that we could mention, but what's fresh in my mind is we have a gentleman that's we just celebrated him being on our team for 3 years. We still celebrated his 3-year anniversary a couple weeks ago, and his story is phenomenal, as somebody that was homeless for several years, in and out of prison, robbing people left and right, and then this place called Set Free. He was so desperate that he reached out for help. And this place called Set Free, which is what we've talked about a lot in this interview, and it's a lot mentioned in our book, is a place that really hones in on serving and loving on the least of these people, and those that society doesn't want. And Dave, this guy's name is Dave, and he wanted to, he was saved, and he was able to, kind of have a hand up in life, and so he was a big part of that. And he certainly has a record full of all kinds of crazy things. But, a few years ago, we gave him an opportunity to work for us, and he has been phenomenal, and somebody that has the most joy, is the hardest worker, very consistent, never complains. He's the oldest guy here, and so and he does a lot of physical labor for us in the production department. But, always being so grateful for the job, always being so grateful to be alive, and always being so grateful to be surrounded by people who also have, a positive influence over him. And so being able to just see him be consistent in his own life for 3 years. And aside from that, the most important thing is he's somebody that has a passion to go seek those who are lost. And so when he's not working, he's doing that. And so he's actually a big part of his church, to go help other homeless people. And so to see this man's life transformed by those who have, that wanted to love on him, and now seeing him being able to do the same in return, is such a beautiful thing.
So this is the example of how ordinary people are called to do extraordinary work. That's his story, that he's
That's
just
right.
an ordinary guy, hit hard times, came across many opportunities to make the right decision and made the wrong one, and finally lands not on his feet but on his face, and you come with a helping hand. As my good friend Peter Rosenberger, who just moved from Nashville to Montana, says that we take our scared hand and put it into his scarred hand, and lifts us up. And so I can see your ministry being just that kind of operation, where there's a lot of scared people out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear in the world. There's a lot of rejection in the world. And our attitude about homeless, I think that it's universal. It's whether you're a believer and a churchgoer, you're not a believer, and not a churchgoer, it doesn't matter. You still have the same disdain, same judgment. You see somebody up ahead standing there with a bucket with a sign that says, we'll work for food or whatever, and you find a way to move to the lane. You slow down, hoping the light will change so you don't have to be the one stopped right there, as opposed to the one who's digging for the change, digging for the money, and finding a way to move over to be able to bless that person. You're the one who has judged him. And that's not what the scriptures say. It says, give to the one who asks, and do not expect repayment. There's a whole narrative there, and we have become people that have become judgmental. Why would I want to give him $10? He's just going to go use it and buy drugs. He's just going to go do it and get drunk again. All I'm doing is feeding his problem until he turns his life around. And that's not the attitude we're supposed to have, is it?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, it's we want to treat those how we want to be treated, and certainly we want to do our best to love our neighbor, no matter the outcome, no matter the circumstance.
So is Project 615? Are you a for-profit?
For-profit.
Okay,
yeah,
you're for-profit.
A regular business. Yeah.
Okay, regular business, and yet you're supporting many nonprofit entities.
Correct.
And so
Correct.
this book is part of that, and the book is called Made to Change the World, and 100% of the proceeds of the sale of this book are going towards, of course, replenishing the inventory, but also all the profits are going to support a local ministry, which is where you find some of the people that you've hired to work for you. So in the course of these last 9 years, you've put over 50 people to work. That's
Correct.
a significant number. That's a delta of 100. Taking 50 people off the street and putting them into the workforce is a big swing. You've given hundreds of thousands of dollars into orphans living in poverty, money to help restore Gatlinburg after the wildfires. I mean, there's various projects that people don't really think about that you're tapped into. How do people find you and find a way to tell you about their need, their story, or to come alongside of you and support these initiatives?
Sure. Well, you can buy the book at madetochangetheworld.org. There's more about the book on that. There's all the outlets to purchase the book. And so I would just say purchasing the book to be able to hear about the story and hopefully encourage everyone out there to make a difference in the world. If you're in Nashville, come by our retail stores. We have 2 retail stores here in Nashville, and you can help us in our current campaign efforts to tell people to be the light in their own community. And you can purchase our Be the Light shirts at project615.org.
Okay. And you launched in 2010. You just celebrated your 9th birthday. You released your summer campaign collection, Be the Light. And for every Be the Light t-shirt, you partnered with Nashville nonprofit Room in the Inn to keep cool, feed, and love on those who are struggling with homelessness. Over 7,000 people are living on the streets this summer without a place to call home. That's a large number of people, and so you have a great area of impact. You also have involved yourself in human trafficking as well as a project in Uganda. How did you get involved in Uganda?
Yeah, so as we've continued to grow over the past few years, we've obviously diversified our local nonprofits and just partnered with people that are hopefully loving people and helping people. And so, yeah, that's just kind of our philosophy. And so aside from the work we've been able to do for the homeless community, we've obviously wanted to kind of diversify, our partnerships here. And so, yeah, so we don't just limit it to 1 or 2 nonprofits. We always try our best to diversify that.
So the websites are project615.org, and the book site is called
madetochangetheworld.org.
madetochangetheworld.org. We've been talking with Derek Evans, author of Made to Change the World, How Ordinary People Are Called to Do Extraordinary Work, the story of Project 615, a for-profit enterprise in Nashville, Tennessee, that's using the proceeds to support many nonprofits in their work to overcome homelessness, to overcome human trafficking, and other projects around the world which are making a difference. And Derek's longing to put his faith to work in a way that's going to change the world. Once again, the book is called Made to Change the World, How Ordinary People Are Called to Do Extraordinary Work, the story of Project 615. Derek Evans, thank you. Thank you for this great work. Thank you for this great story. And thank you for answering the call to help the homeless.
Thanks for the time, and I enjoyed it.
God bless, my friend. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.